So I'm going to read from Rays of the One Light, our weekly reading. So this week the theme is called How Should We Meet Our Tests? Very apt every week. The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yoganandaji and by his guru, Sri Yukteswarji, who was guided by Babaji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. All of us experience temptation of one kind or another in our lives. Some of us frequently, others only occasionally. Whether temptation comes to us from our own subconscious or from outside ourselves is secondary to the fact that it does come and that we must deal with it. More importantly, then, is the question how to deal with it. In fact, how to deal with tests of any kind. Martin Luther flung an ink pot at the devil who had appeared to test him. A dark stain on the wall of Luther's cell is pointed out to tourists in support of this story. Unfortunately, our trials are not often so summarily dismissed. As a fellow monk once said to Swami Kriyanandaji, speaking of Satan, "If only I could get my hands on him." Christ, during his temptations in the wilderness, overcame them and thereby set an example for all time by clinging the more determinedly to God. As Paramahansa Yogananda used to say, darkness cannot be driven out of a room with a stick. Once you turn on the light, however, the darkness will vanish as though it had never been there. Christ manifested this principle. The Bible tells us, therefore, that at last the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. So he had, before he got murdered, he had gone on a seclusion of some sort, and knew what was about to happen. And so after he was visited by very negative energy, and he flung it out, and then felt obviously complete bliss. In the Bhagavad Gita, the point is clarified further by the added explanation that there are three qualities in human nature: sattvic, or spiritually elevating; rajasic, or ego-activating; and tamasic, or spiritually darkening. It is this triune aspect of human nature that the third chapter refers to with the words, "As fire is hidden by smoke, as a mirror is dulled by rust, and as an embryo is enclosed in the womb, so is the indwelling self enveloped by desire." Yogananda explained that each of these examples describes one of the qualities, or gunas. Sattva guna, that which elevates our consciousness, can be freed of any identity with ego by a little puff of meditation and right affirmation. Rajoguna, which embroils the ego in restless activity, can be worked off with a little more and a little longer effort. Tamoguna embraces, as it does, such mental states as laziness and stupidity, can be outgrown in time, since it inhibits even the desire for self-improvement. The example Jesus gave us intended more for those in whom sattva guna is predominant. But if you yourself find elements in your consciousness that resist even the effort to cling to God in prayer and meditation, don't despair. Patience, as it has well been said, is the fastest path to God. As long as your efforts take you steadfastly in the right direction, you will come out right in time. Remember Yoganandaji's words, "A saint is a sinner who never gave up." If, however, your nature impels you, even against your will, to move in the wrong direction, toward egoic desires and away from God, strive to at least detach yourself mentally from your wrong actions, which are induced by habit. The time will come when their stored-up energy will tire and diminish. At that time, if you have not contributed to that energy by your consenting will, you will find it possible at last to redirect your energies more constructively. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. You know, this is a very instructive reading. It's very helpful to know when we are facing tests. First of all, is it an internal test? Can I meditate or not? You know, can I feel the presence of the divine right now or not? That's a test. Or, you know, am I going to lose my job? Is there financial insecurity? Is there insecurity in world peace? Is there insecurity in anything that's going on in my life? And these are all tests that we have. And if you want to think of it as a test, what does that mean? It means that we can be victorious if we get through it. Sometimes if we get through it just crawling with our knees bleeding, but that's still getting through it, isn't it? And then we're on the other side and we say, whew, thank goodness that's over, you know. But what this is encouraging us to do is to really cling to the divine when we go through tests. And how do we do this? We practice when it's easy. And our daily practices are the answer, the daily practices. And so when we have a test, we need to raise our energy. We need to bring in the presence of the divine. We need to feel the protection of the divine. All these things happen when we meditate. Or at least we do the practices, and after we meditate, we feel that way. It just kind of depends on how we're doing. But one very helpful thing to think about is, what is our state of consciousness when we're meeting that test? So are we in sattva guna, which is, as Swamiji said in the reading, all it takes is a puff of meditation and affirmation, and you feel the inspiration of the divine. And we can be in that state, especially if we've meditated deeply and given ourselves time after meditation to kind of integrate back into life. Remember, it's very important after we meditate to sit for at least, 15 minutes or so without doing any of the techniques. It's like digesting the food after having a delicious divine meal. It's very important. And, when we are doing our practices, especially Kriya, we are cleaning out vrittis in our chakras. And when we're cleaning those things out, they stir up. And so when we sit, we have time for that to settle a bit and to, like I said, digest a little bit. So you don't want to do your Kriyas and then hop up and get in the car and get in an accident. I'm not trying to cause fear on that kind of a level, but you want to just really be careful the way you come back after your meditation. If you just hop up, you're not going to feel that peace that you generated inside your meditation. And we want to feel that peace. That's the whole reason why we did it. So just take care that we, gently come out of our meditation and gently integrate out. Hopefully no one's there waiting for us to, I wanted to tell you this morning, that kind of a thing. And so, but we want to be very aware of what our consciousness level is, and we can kind of tell. So again, sattva guna. I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying guna. Sattva guna. When we are already uplifted, we're in that state that says, Master, I'm right here, I'm ready, I'm awake and ready, I'm ready for it. Rajasic is more, I just got out of work, I just got out of driving, in the bad traffic, I just feel kind of antsy, but there's energy. And that's not a bad thing. So what do? Take a run, take a walk, do something that can help manage that physical energy that's puffing up inside of ourselves so that we can sooner or later through exercise, through energization exercises, through asanas even, direct that energy up here. So that is control of energy. Even, I love the philosophy of Ananda's Living Wisdom Schools, because, sometimes little kids are really wild and rambunctious and might drive you crazy. But energy is good. And that's what our teachers always say. Energy is good. Dharmarajan and I taught for a little while in our schools. And energy is good, but it needs to be directed. And so that's the goal of raising children, is to teach them to direct their energy in a good way through your own example, but also, I see they're running around in circles, and this is not the time to do that. So, give them a little task that uses that energy, rather than sit down, that kind of stuff. Maybe take them outside, let them run in a circle till they fall over, then bring them back in. Just being aware that, there's energy there, it needs to be directed. And rather than squashed, that kind of stuff. Of course, children need to learn how to behave also, so that comes over time. But we're the same, aren't we? We're those children. We get into the meditation room, and we're like this, and it's like, okay, I've got energy, but I do not have inspiration. Zero inspiration, just plenty of energy. And it's like, okay, then let's direct that energy. Do the energization exercises. Pray while you're doing it. I like to do gratitude energization. It's not a technique that Master Swamiji taught, so I'm not giving you some thing. But I like to do it. Every time I do one of the exercises, I think of something I'm grateful for. It's just a very nice thing to do. And so energization exercises, keep that energy focused, keep that energy going in the right direction. Asanas are so beautiful. We can really direct the energy in such a gentle way. But sometimes it helps to do energization first so that you start to wrangle that restless energy. Then you do the asana and you can really direct the energy in a nice way. So do a couple of those, and then maybe you'll be ready. Or you might chant. Chanting, we always recommend chanting a chant. Again, that brings in inspiration, and then you can begin your practice. So be aware. Am I rajasic right now? No inspiration, just energy. And awake energy, Then there's tamasic. That's the tired energy. That's I can't do anything. I'm just laying around. I don't feel inspired. I don't like God anymore or whatever. That's tamasic. And Swamiji said there's nothing you can do with tamasic energy. All you can do is wait it out. You can try and force yourself to do something, but that tamasic energy is going to just be there until it's not. And so, of course, I would recommend taking a walk or getting up, trying to be active. See if you can move some of that tamasic energy into rajasic. And know that when you're feeling that way, you can't say, I better meditate, because then you're like, sleeping when you're meditating. So it's very important to kind of be aware. Am I in just the hopeless, sleepy mode, or the aware, awake mode, or the inspired mode? And that you can work with yourself. I love knowing that. I love knowing this, and how do I deal with myself when I'm in these different states of consciousness. And we're all a mixture. I think until someone is really close to liberation, maybe that's when they're always in sattvic energy, but usually us regular people experience all of the different levels of consciousness. And so anyway, when we are doing our practices, we are practicing when it's easy, when the tests are there. And if we can really develop that habit of going to meditation every day, then when something bad happens, what do? Do we skip our meditation because, oh my God, I just can't do it? Or do we take that nervous, fearful energy and try and direct it? And, you will often find after you've been doing your meditation very regularly, then when these nervous, maybe terrible tests come, then you're able to really just say, just a moment, and take that time that's required inside and feel that energy and begin to cultivate calmness in your meditation as well. So I wanted to read a little bit from Master, from Swamiji, on calmness in general. One of the things Master said was, when we are in Om, nothing can touch us. And so we just got done with a Om for Kriyaban class, so hopefully everyone can be a little bit more in touch with Om and feeling the presence of the divine. And so once we really stop resisting the Om technique and allow it to work and cultivate calmness and allow that to work on us as well, then we really begin to value that technique. Of course, some of you may not have it, so I apologize if I'm talking about something you don't know about yet. But there's a very inspiring story of Dr. Lewis and Master when Dr. Lewis was out in a sailboat, and we probably all know this story, but it's just so inspiring. And he remembered that Master had said in Om, we are protected and nothing can touch us. And so he went into Om vibration in the sailboat. But while he was doing that, Master was far away and pacing back and forth and saying, Doctor is in trouble. Doctor is in trouble. He's in deep trouble. And so Dr. Lewis, though, said he felt enveloped in the Om in the middle of this storm on his sailboat. And I don't know how big the sailboat was, but I've been in rough water on boats before. Not too bad, though. I wouldn't want to be in a storm, that's for sure. And, I've actually on YouTube, there's a few that are a little scary. People on cruise ships that have waves that come over the deck, and it's like, that's a tall cruise ship, and that wave hit the deck of that cruise ship. Anyway, wouldn't want to be in that. So anyway, he's in the storm, but he felt enveloped in the Om. He got through the storm. It did not capsize him or get him super wet. And he got home, and Master called him and said, you almost got in a lot of trouble, didn't you, Doctor? And so Master was there also, of course, blessing him with the Om, which is what Master does to us anyway when we are in that inspired state. Even when we're not in an inspired state, he's still there wanting to help us to feel inspired. So suppose we're going through a terrible time. We want to start practicing when it's easy in our life by going to our techniques, but also anytime any worries come. A worry is a mini test. Anytime the worries come, we want to be able to cling to our guru whenever a worry comes. And so that means, as soon as the worry comes, do we go outward? Do we have all our senses go out? Or do we pull in and contemplate and feel inspiration so that we can then solve something with superconsciousness energy? So when we allow the energy to be drawn out and we feel a nervousness or whatever we feel, and we go out of ourselves and start grabbing a hold of other people and blaming other people or trying to force comfort out of someone else or whatever we might do. What did we do as children? We didn't know to do anything differently, so we still behave as children. we run to whoever might help us feel okay. But does money solve a difficult test? Does a person solve a difficult test in the end? Maybe periodically, but that's what we tend to do, is rush out of ourselves to solve that problem. And what we want to do is train ourselves, and now that we're yogis, if we're learning meditation, we're officially yogis. And so why not instead learn to, instead of pushing that energy out and grabbing a hold of people and forcing them to try and make us feel better, draw that energy in instead. Try and get inside ourselves. Try and feel the peace that is there inside. Now, does that mean we're ignoring what's going on? No. We feel that peace inside so that then we can get an inspired solution to whatever is going on with us. Whatever problem we have, we can hear an intuition. Now, it might just be the next step. Go research this. Go hire a lawyer, that, But we're still drawing inside, and we're getting, what is my next step, Master? And that's a really good question to ask. Rather than, how do I solve this whole thing? We say, what is my next step? And that can be had. And then what is my next step after that? And what is my next step after that? And we touch the divine inside, and then we do our next step. And if we do it that way, sometimes you'll get the whole vision at once and say, now I know what to do. But sometimes not. Sometimes you only get one little step, and you're like, now what do I do? And so we meditate more, and we feel, what do I do next? And so, these are tests we have to cling to Master. We have to cling to Divine Mother. And of course, devotion is a very also added element in there. The more devotion we can feel, the more inspired we can get, and that brings us closer to the presence of the divine within. So these things are very important for us to feel, just to be able to solve tests in our lives. And so I'll end a little bit with something. Swamiji wrote the book Demystifying Patanjali, which is based on a class, not just one class, but classes Master would give on Patanjali that are not published. So we can't directly quote from that. But Swamiji wrote Demystifying Patanjali based on that. And, calmness is the key. If you wanted to shorten this talk today, you say, how do I deal with my tests? And then the answer is, with calmness. And so, okay, I'm done. But instead, we have to contemplate a little bit more. And so Swamiji wrote, when perfect calmness comes, then alone we know peace. This is the state known as samadhi. Then he writes, the only important thing on the spiritual path is to calm the emotions. Calm feeling is love, which unites the soul with God. Restless or agitated feelings, on the other hand, the emotions, disrupt our vision and prevent us from achieving full acceptance of our true reality as manifestations of the eternal stillness of God. Yoga, then, is the calming of these vortices of feeling. Feeling it is which forms the whirlpool of desire and attachment, into which we draw every desire and attachment to a focus in the thought, I want that, I define myself by that, I am that. Herein lies the value of Kriya Yoga as taught by Lahiri Mahashaya of Benares. Kriya Yoga dissolves those vrittis and directs their energy upward toward the spiritual eye in the forehead. Hence, we now see the role of Kriya Yoga in our practices, neutralizing the vrittis. Kriya does a lot of other things, but this is the main thing. So the whole question is, how do we meet our tests? Raise the energy through energization exercises and control it. Raise the consciousness through Hong Sa. Connect to the Om, feel the presence of the divine. Neutralize the feelings through Kriya Yoga. Thus, the simple matter of calming our feelings is done. That is, in fact, the whole problem, isn't it? If we look at everything from the matter of calming the energy in our hearts and maintaining calm energy, our whole priorities change. And that's the other clue, is when we are sitting still, if we can get ourselves to sit still, you feel, what is the energy going on in my heart? Is it like this or is it calm? And that's another clue as to what we need to do next. If it's like this, then the answer is, I need to calm my heart. If it's already calm, then we bring the energy up here, and we create a magnet here, and that magnet draws the energy from the senses inward into the spine, up to the spiritual eye, and then we can solve many problems with that. We can solve engineering problems. I used to have dreams, as I say, when I was an engineer that would solve problems here and there. I'd wake up with what I had to do to test some design engineering problem. And so many things can be done that way. So we need to watch our lives, watch our consciousness, watch our tendencies. Remember, Swamiji said Tamo Guna doesn't even care about self-improvement. So we know if we're just laying around and we don't even care, then that's definitely Tamo Guna. And so we want self-improvement so we can be better citizens in society, but also so that we can progress towards the divine and towards bliss. And remember, the goal is bliss. The goal while we're meditating is not, when will I find freedom? When will I find freedom? Am I advanced? Am I advanced? Am I advanced? What does it mean if I have a dream about this? What does it mean if I have a dream about that? We get those questions. Not that they're invalid, but the answer is calmness. And if you have to ask, you're not there. Am I advanced? No, because you just asked it. Was that an advanced experience? No, because you had to ask it. The thing is, when you're in bliss, you don't care anymore. You just don't care. You know you're on your way. Not like, I'm in bliss and now I'm on my way. Not that. But nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. You're in bliss, and you feel the love of the divine, and you know you're on the train. You've just entered the train. And the train takes you wherever God wants you to go. And that's all we have to worry about. Don't worry about this or that, or remember, every time we meditate, whether we're new to meditation in this life or we've been meditating a long time, every effort goes into the little effort pot of moving in the right direction. Every single effort. Master said, no effort is lost in a lifetime. So what happens if we think our life is cut short or something like that? Oh, I didn't get to samadhi. Well, we don't know what we did in our past life. And so that's not really to worry about. But did we put the effort in? Did we try our best? Did we keep moving in that direction? Did we love the divine as deeply as we could? These are the questions we ask ourselves. Did I make everybody around me miserable? That's a good question to ask. Do I complain all the time? That's a good question to ask. Who do we complain to? We complain to the divine so that he can then discipline us and tell us to stop complaining. The life we're given is the life we're given. And Master also said, you do not want someone else's life. You know, we might look at someone and say, wow, they said they meditated 3 hours a day and they seem so spiritual. No. Everybody has their problems. Everybody. Dharmarajan and I have our problems. We have our karma. You have your karma. And so we don't want anybody else's karma. Let's embrace our own karma. And then the other thing we can do is pray for freedom in this lifetime, which Master said we can get through Kriya Yoga. So if you don't have Kriya Yoga, work on it. If you do have Kriya Yoga, then don't think about that, but do think about how can I love God more deeply. And you will feel more and more bliss in your meditations if you approach your meditation in that way, as opposed to approaching it so technically. One person was doing their kriyas and they said with every kriya they were thinking, give me freedom, give me freedom, give me freedom. You know, that it's such a mental thing to do, it's not going to lead anywhere. So instead, if you have to think when you're doing it, just think, I love you, my Divine Mother. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's a great affirmation. It's a great mantra to just love the divine with all your heart, all your body, all your mind, all your soul.